Italy's Prime Minister is losing his grip on power.
Silvio Berlusconi has suffered a second electoral blow in 2 weeks. Italians overwhelmingly voted to overturn legislation that he sponsored. They have chosen to ban nuclear power, block cities from selling water companies, but also prevent Berlusconi from evading his corruption trials. Now, for more on the vote and the political future of Berlusconi, let's talk to Giovanni Orsina, who is in Rome. He's a professor at Guido Carli University. Thank you so much, Giovanni, for joining us here on Countdown. In terms of what this referendum means, we had a turnout of more than 50%, which means that actually this will be taken into account. Does it mean that 50% of the population is now against Berlusconi? Does it mean that he has to think fast to keep his coalition together?
I think yes. This is basically the major the major element of these results. This is a 57% turnout, which for referendums is really hasn't happened for a long time, and it's about 95% of yes votes, which means that more than 50% of the population is against the government. Because although the questions themselves are quite important, mostly this referendum was a political message to the government.
And this is the second political message that was directed at Berlusconi in less than a month. What I wonder is, it seems that Berlusconi has been ruled, certainly by the foreign community, unfit to rule Italy for now 8 to 9 years, when The Economist put him on the front page saying he was unfit to rule Italy, and yet he survives constantly. Is he going to survive again these corruption trials and these scandals?
You see, I think that Berlusconi has very many charismatic leaders. In a way, you know, it's a kind of power which goes on, and you never can tell when it's going to end, the honeymoon with the public opinion. Most likely, one blow after the other, after the other, after the other. He survived. He actually won the elections last year, the regional elections. It looks like this moment is the moment when his grip on, more than on power on the country, is basically gone. This is the major message of these 2 weeks of elections.
And this is why.
So it's not just corruption. Is you know, a kind of adding up things which destroyed, or at least weakened very significantly his power.
And I guess the Italians were fed up, but why now and not a year ago or 2 years ago? Did he lose the Vatican vote, but also the women's vote?
Of course, as I said, this is a kind of incremental process. Yes. Of course, all these, let's say, sexual scandals, all these elements, quite certainly weaken his grip on the Catholic vote and on women's vote. What looks like is that also the vote of young people now is going in other directions. Yeah. Which directions is very difficult to tell, though.
Giovanni, I was, a couple of months ago, Berlusconi made it very clear that if the rating agencies are thinking of downgrading Italy, he's the guy that can possibly save Italy. That's what he says. That's what he thinks, although he's denied that there were any economic troubles in Italy over the last 3 to 4 years. If he does step down and a new coalition is formed without Silvio Berlusconi, what does it mean for the economy, and what does it mean for the rating agencies?
That is very difficult to tell, because, as I said, now it is very clear that he now is really going out. So what is going to come in its stead is very difficult to foretell. This means that which coalition, with which kind of economic minister, with which kind of economic policy, this is extremely difficult to foretell. What looks quite clear is that there is a very wide agreement in Italian politics about the fact that the economy must be saved, that Italy has got a problem of public debt, and that economic stability is very relevant in order to avoid any kind of Greek problem. But you see, what's going to come next is our major question mark nowadays.
Yeah, and that's going to be the big problem. But if you have a prime minister such as Silvio Berlusconi, that actually for the last 3 years has denied that we were in a crisis in Italy, at any point he never said that Italy was in a crisis just like the peripheral countries. Surely whoever comes next must be better than that.
Well, he didn't actually deny that Italy was having an economic crisis. Of course, he was trying to, this is part of his communication strategy, was basically trying to say that the crisis was not so bad as in order to create a kind of psychological backlash, of course, in favor of himself, but also in favor of coming out of the crisis. As a matter of fact, his economic policy, thanks to the economic minister Tremonti, was an economic policy very much in favor of stability. So the major problem now, which is also a problem, a rift inside Berlusconi's coalition, and we really need to see what's going to come next.
Who comes next?
Is
Giovanni?
that he would like to do what? Sorry?
Yeah, of course. That's the main problem. We don't know who's going to come next. We have to leave it there. Giovanni, Orsina, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.